Okay, welcome to episode 2 of 5D Tea Time. We are your host. I am Crystal Kristen.
And I'm Lindsay Love.
Yay. And we're so happy to be here with you today. And we're addressing our conversations just based on what's alive for us right now. So that's really our guidance for the topics we pick. And as we were settling in before hitting play, we're like, do our little meditation, come into our heart space. And yeah, today the topic of intuition and empowerment are what's most alive for us right now. So I'm curious, Lindsay, what is like empowerment, empowered decision making? What is that for you? What does that feel like in this moment? Like what's alive for you now with empowered decision making and how you come to that place?
Yeah, so I think empowerment, first to kind of explain that in full is to look at what disempowerment feels like for me. Many of you watching this might know, but many may not know, I had the past year going on a breast cancer journey. And just this past week, I finished with treatments, which is amazing. And empowerment and disempowerment came up massively throughout this experience. But this past week, after finishing treatments about a month ago, I had another kind of health crises hit a pinnacle, hit a peak. And to me, that peak was the epitome of disempowerment. And in order to describe empowerment, I think first, just to outline disempowerment and what that feels like for me personally, just this focus, this hyper focus on what the problem is, the lack of clarity in the situation, all the energy in the thinking mind going to what's wrong, how am I going to fix this, what's happening in my body, what's wrong with me. And so it's ultimately this distraction from the here and now, from the possibility of life, from the 5D. Ultimately, it's a distraction of ultimately the 5D, what this conversation is about. It's the opposite end of the spectrum of the 5D. It's being caught in that worry and that fear and that concern. And hence, if we look at the body as an energetic body, right? Electromagnetic fields, energetic field. Energy is exchanged. Sometimes it's low, sometimes it's heightened, sometimes it's being sucked away, sometimes it's being given. And in the case of disempowerment, it's almost as if there's a siphon pulling on the energy, sucking the energy out of the energetic field. And how you can feel this is via your intuition or your feeling body. A lot of times I relate the intuition to the feeling body. Intuition is outside of the mind and more in the body and the heart. But your feeling body feels drained mentally, emotionally, physically. It's just a drain. And that is the siphon of energy being taken away. And sometimes this can be from a situation outside of ourselves. And sometimes it's a situation created within our own mind, within our own field. And so ultimately, that as a picture for me is disempowerment. When I feel drained, when I feel exhausted, when I feel unclear, when I'm wavering on a decision or a direction forward, when I'm wavering on how to confront a situation or how to move beyond my circumstances. And getting stuck there, for me personally, is incredibly uncomfortable because it's that constant drain. It's a constant siphoning. And so in this particular circumstance, I kind of hit the pinnacle yesterday with the health issue. And this is just an example of what was going on. But I hit the pinnacle and I got to get clarity on this, and I got to get clarity now, because I can no longer stay in this land of indecision, this land of uncertainty, this land of non-clarity. Because I was drained. I couldn't focus on anything else. I couldn't give to anyone else. I couldn't give to myself. I couldn't be in the moment. I was so distracted. So ultimately, that's the point sometimes in life that we need to get to in order to take action to change our circumstances. And by changing our circumstances, ultimately we take our power back. And that alone is transformational. So in this circumstance, taking my power back was to seek out a professional opinion, to go and find answers from someone else, knowing I already knew what was happening inside of my body, but to have someone confirm that, and then to have someone say, hey, I can help you with this. This is not a forever circumstance, was life-changing, life-altering. And in that moment, it's like the energy came back to me. The support was there. The energy came back in. The disempowerment was no longer. It actually transformed more into empowerment of, I have clarity now. I know what's going on. I have clarity on, this is not going to be like this forever. I have clarity on how to transform and how to move forward. And maybe it won't change tomorrow, and maybe it won't change the next day, but I know what steps I need to take to get there, to get to the change that I'm seeking. And ultimately, that alone is empowering, because no longer was I stuck in the land of indecision, the land of confusion, the land of limbo. I had clarity. And so this medical example is one example in life, but this pertains to every area of our life, in any circumstance of making a decision or confronting a situation that's causing a little bit of upheaval within the energetic body or the nervous system or the mind and emotions. So yeah, sorry for the lengthy explanation, but to me, that is kind of a picture of what empowerment and disempowerment look like. And empowerment overall feels like peace, calm, groundedness, control ultimately, but not in the form of like a negative form of control, more of a control over the next steps forward, a control over the emotions and the mental mind. So it also looks like groundedness. It looks like joy and the ability to see possibility and potential for change.
Whoa, I feel like you could really create a whole TED Talk on that. I was like so powerful and so clear. Like you said the word clarity. I was like, whoa, she just sounds, you were like embodying clarity as you were talking about this story. And this just happened yesterday. I mean, it was an accumulation, but like that moment of empowerment, like that shift just happened yesterday. I'm like, you're already here ready to share the story, which I'm like, whoa.
Well, the beauty, I think, in sharing it today is it's so fresh in my mind that it's very real, right? And then time goes on and we tend to forget, or we don't forget, but we get distracted with other things, right? And that thing that was so prevalent in our mind space and our energy that was really consuming us, it shifted, and then how quickly we move forward, right? And it's like, oh, that's in the past, or oh, breast cancer's in the past, or that journey's in the past, but then something happens again to peak it, and and so I suppose we're always shifting in and out of these energies of empowerment and disempowerment, but when it's really fresh, it's like, oh yes, I remember what this feels like, the disempowerment, and it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, but the moment it shifts, the moment it transforms, it changes everything. It's like, yeah, one end of the spectrum to the other. And so yeah, I think today is the perfect day to share, because it's at the forefront. It is clear, because I had the ultimate shift yesterday afternoon and in the evening and this morning, and that brought me That's the only way to describe it. Is like, felt like I had been holding my breath for a month.
Huge relief. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying too about just that contraction point, like how like the contraction into that place, and it's like from that place where like you burst open to getting the support, getting the help, fulfilling the need. But like, yeah, just interesting how sometimes, this birthing of ourselves in this realm, it is like birth. It really is. It's like we're being squeezed and contracted in the womb to like birth out this new level of energy that's like somehow stuck inside of us. It was constricted, it was tight. It's like how like, okay, this is going to be a big birth. This is going to be a big push. Top is like, whoa, like life again, freedom, and my breath and aliveness. Really interesting. Really interesting. And I think that a piece too with this is like, in that state of contraction, you felt unsupported. You felt probably very isolated and alone and lonely and like, what's wrong with me, or what the words that you were saying there. And then in like the empowered state, it's like support is there. Like now there's words, now there's connection, now there's community and conversation and resources. And it's like, oh, life, I'm back. And it's really interesting. I don't know if you have anything to say about that piece, but also the element of judgment and non-judgment. Like, I do feel like the 5D, what is differentiating is that like it is a non-judgmental space. Not to say we don't go through self-loathing and self-judgment when we're vacillating between the 3D, 4D, 5D. And that is a quality of the 5D, is that non-judgment. Like once we come out of the contraction and we're back into life, it's like, oh, like bless me and like bless this journey, and like holy am I, for going through these contractions and this grieving process that is a part of like the shedding of these deep energetic and emotional currents that are connected to our physical body. But like judgment and non-judgment is like also, I would say, like a quality of disempowerment and empowerment. I like this topic actually because so links into it. I don't know, does that
Yeah, and
for you?
to piggyback a little bit on what you're saying, you're like,
Yeah.
this feeling of being alive and free again. And it's so true because in these moments of disempowerment, it's so easy to create our own mental prison and to self-isolate. So it can feel so.
Oh, you're freezing. I don't know if you can hear me. Are you there? Lindsay Love has frozen. Let's see here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there you are. You're
Okay.
back. Yeah.
So yeah,
You were
and
just saying feeling alive and life, and then you trailed off. So we didn't hear too much.
yeah, so you gave the at the end of the explanation, or what you were saying, piggybacking off of what you were saying in regards to the feeling of empowerment, is this alive, free, and it's like almost like you opened your chest because it's like coming from the place of love, from the heart, right? There's an aliveness, there's a freedom there. And the disempowerment is more like constriction and restriction, right? It's like, it's almost like I was closing off my heart space, going internally, isolating, which in a way is, I think, the dichotomy of life, right? It's really beautiful to have these moments of intense brightness, and then there can be intense darkness or openness and closed. Everything has its its opposite, right? So there's the light, there's the dark. But ultimately in the 5D, it's this place of empowerment. It's this place of freedom, of aliveness. And the disempowerment is the self-isolating and the closing off, and the really getting trapped in the mental construct. And so these are important moments in time. I feel both are necessary to the exploration of the journey and the growth of life. But to get stuck in one place for too long, specifically the disempowerment place, and can really wreak havoc on one's mental state, emotional state, energetic state is the best way to say that. So it's interesting that you brought up community too, because that's another thing, is like, I notice when I go into disempowered states, I want to isolate myself, rather than be in community and spend time with others. So just these interesting recognitions of the feelings of and the experiences of what disempowerment and empowerment look like, and then judgment and non-judgment piggyback on those perfectly, because the non-judgment is a place of empowerment, right? It's a place of freedom. It's a place of being alive. We're not judging ourselves. We're not judging others. We're just in this place of acceptance and non-judgment, whereas judgment is quite the opposite. It really coincides nicely with disempowerment, because ultimately there's heavy judgment placed upon ourselves or others or situations when we're in a period of disempowerment.
So I'm curious, like, as you're sharing this right now, like, because it's just so fresh, like, how do you feel now? Like, sharing your story, kind of being with me in this moment as your friend, and like sharing this with the community, like how, like, just because you're being so authentic, and that's what I love about this journey. I mean, I just the authenticity of what is in our real, in our lives, and what we're really working with, what we're alchemizing. I'm just curious, how do you feel now, like, sharing this? Like, what's going on with your body, with your mind, with your emotions, like in real time?
It feels freeing. I mean, I can feel, like I was talking about the restriction kind of falling away, and wanting to sit up straighter and wanting to open more. And it feels beautiful to share about it, because I know that I'm not alone. I know that I'm not the only one who's experienced this and is experiencing this. And something about sharing after going through such a challenging moment, it's really elevating. I feel like it also is even more empowering. It helps to bring energy back to, because by sharing, other people can relate, other people can connect, and it feels beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it, but it feels opposite to what I was experiencing yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that amazing? Like how quick the shift can happen when it's like time, when it's ready to, like, it's just so beautiful. Woo. I just, like, really honor your, like, vulnerability. and like all of your journey that's brought up this level of like um deep conversation with yourself, that like your process, the steps you've taken, and like there's like a reclamation of yourself, like you're claiming it and you're like, this is my path, and like this is who I am, this is, this is the content of what what is me now. And it almost feels like, I don't know, like you were just saying, you didn't say this word, but like almost like celebratory, like kind of each success, each moment of shifting from contraction to expansion, or like the disempowerment to the empowerment. It's like that's a moment of like, that's a holy day. That is a rebirth. It's like you're birthing yourself anew, and that is something to just sing sing to the heavens about.
Oh, yes, it's a win. It's
The
totally
win.
a win. It's a huge win. It's a
Yeah.
huge win. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to look back at the journey, it's like, I mean, maybe the journey of breast cancer is the more extended journey, but just the journey of the past month, and to feel right now where I am, it's profound, and it builds courage and it builds resiliency. And these are all other topics for all other episodes, but it builds character. It helps us to go through and understand what the process is like. So then the next time we go through a process similar to, we have tools, we have recollection, we have recognition of what happened before, and we can utilize that to carry us forward. So maybe it doesn't have to be such a long extended journey. It can be, it can be a bit quickened, or a bit shorter of a journey.
I wanted to ask one more question, because
Yeah.
I had the question and I forgot it, and you're reminding me of it. From this place of kind of just like more openness, more, I mean, you're still in the process, right? There's still, and like we're celebrating this big shift. From this place of expansion, of a sense of like love, connection, aliveness, kind of trusting the journey, would there be a place in the state you were in the past month that this wisdom or this part of you would like to have maybe done something differently, or would there have been, like, from the seat of this space, something you would like to have said to the you in that space? Like, I don't know if that's a good question, but there's something there. Like, what does wisdom want to say, or what does aliveness want to say to the one that was hurting?
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful question. It's perfect, honestly. I think in hindsight, hindsight 2020, I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
I would have taken action earlier to confide in others and to find support.
Mm,
I certainly felt the need to isolate myself, and kind of got caught in the emotions of it all, and the worry of it all, and the mental prison ultimately. And after 8 months of breast cancer, I felt maybe like a burden to others, in a way of like, okay, now I have something else going on. But it'll make me a little bit teary if I talk
yeah,
about it, teary.
yeah,
um but recognizing now the shift of talking to you about it before this call, and seeking out help yesterday, and confiding in my closest people about it, it actually lifted the burden, and it helped me to rebuild that community and to connect again, so I wasn't isolating. And it helped me know and brainstorm how to move forward, how to how to get my power back, per se, how to let go of this disempowerment, take my power back, and take the action steps necessary, which I was struggling to do that on my own. I was in this kind of this limbo phase, and so by leaning on others and calling in help and support, and banishing that concept of being a burden,
Yeah.
it transformed everything. And so my only, hindsight is 2020. I wish I would have done that 2 weeks ago rather than
I'm asking,
the
like,
way
what is the hindsight
it was.
2020? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really it. Is that's the lesson learned from it, is like, the community is there for support, but people can't read our minds. We have to ask for help. I have to ask for the support. I have to share rather than just doing it all on my own. And I think that's the biggest challenge in our world today, is the disempowerment strikes us, and then we keep it inside. We do it all on our own, and we feel alone and isolated. And then of course that builds into something bigger, depression and anxiety, and it's this cycle that can be never ending. And the idea is to lean on others, to seek help and support. And maybe not everybody has the answers, but together, the brainstorm of coming up with, okay, how are we going to tackle this? And yeah, it's quite profound. And that is the lesson for me. Absolutely, with this situation.
Yeah. It's like 4 weeks of personal suffering, 5 weeks, and then boom, you call in help, and then less than 24 hours. You're like, I'm ready to share. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm here for you, on this journey of healing. It's there's moments of celebration, not that like contraction doesn't happen again, and um now you have that, like, reach out for the support, for the conversation, for and even
Yeah.
like you call the doctor, like that doctor's not answering the next one, just don't stop, keep seeking the support until you find the help. um
Yeah.
the help that you need.
Yeah, I will second that. Just from the journey that I've been on through breast cancer, and don't stop. If something doesn't feel right inside of you, and again, that's more intuition based, or instinctual. But if something doesn't right, keep seeking, because you will find the answers that you seek and the support that you seek. So there's also a self-worth and value element in there as well.
True. It's a rich life. Look how abundant we are. with all with all of this, even the language, we're abundant with words to be able to describe how we feel and describe what our experience is. I mean, that's abundance. We're building abundance code. And just even having language to share what we're feeling inside is so abundant. So I'm just so grateful for you sharing this gift with us today. As it does feel like a gift. Interesting how such suffering can be such a gift.
Yeah.
And especially when we're willing to share and support others, letting others know that they're not alone, that
And
there's
without this, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
please. Go ahead.
Just without the suffering, this moment wouldn't feel so magical, for lack of better word, either. Freeing, transformative, enlightening. So the experience of both is quite important. Again, the opposites, the empowerment and the disempowerment. the dichotomy of the two, right? And the experience of both, and knowing this moment of freedom and this moment of magic, it's like the gift. It's like the rainbow after the storm, after the hurricane. So there's always that. There's always a brighter day. This too shall pass, and it always does.
So there's a piece too. It's like another step in the conversation. And I don't know how long we've even been talking. So who knows if people want to listen to this long, but this is how our conversations go. They can last, hours. But for, I guess we want to be kind of concise here. But also in the fifth dimension, as I've experienced it, there is a reconciliation of duality where the yin and the yang are more neutralized, and those opposites are kind of fulfilled within each other, because the light is in the shadow and the shadow's in the light. And when you see that face of conflict, when you see that fear, when you're staring that fear in the face and it has no grip on us, then we've mastered that level of the 3D. And so it's interesting because the 5D really feels like duality is not pulling this world of opposites. So in this space that you're in, we're just using this as an exercise here. In this space that you're in, how will you populate this state of expansion to anchor this field more strongly, this realm of expansion, aliveness? How will you support yourself in this space to create more of a population, like to populate this space more, so that when there is that pull for the contraction, this is actually stronger, so you don't get fully pulled back in. So I'm just interested also from this point. Now we have the conversation, communities in, like, what are the empowering actions that you can take here to, just anchor in this state of wholeness, all is wellness. We know if you start to contract, you're going to reach out to support. And how do we support the energetics of this? So it's pulling the contraction up almost, something like that. Is that true? Bringing anything?
Absolutely. It all starts with the mind, I think, which the mind is very connected to the energetic field. So I agree with you in regards to the lack of duality, or, the duality almost merging as one in the 5D. Absolutely. I think there will be the acknowledgement of like shifting out of it slightly, and depending on how far the shift goes, can drop down into 4D or 3D. This experience was absolutely 3D for me. Absolutely, 1000%. I was completely trapped in my mind.
Can I also say maybe even 2D a little bit, because it's some underworld stuff.
Yes.
2D is a little bit like deep, like Hades.
Dark, dark underworld.
So sometimes we dip, we scoop up. Yeah.
So I think that's why the experiences of the 2D, the 3D, the 4D, however many Ds are are so profound and so important. The double Ds. I think drawing off experience is so important and so powerful. Without these experiences of these lower dimensions, we would never understand what it's like to exist within the 5D. I mean, there's maybe some argument around that, but for me personally, I think that the more experience we have, the more recognition we have about patterning and tendencies and things like that, then we can see how they're being activated or triggered more clearly. And that comes via wisdom. I don't, maybe people are born into this world with more wisdom, but for me, it, through the experiences, it brings more wisdom, right? So by seeing it and experiencing it, I know what's happening more quickly. I can draw off past experiences to know what my tendencies are, what my patterns are, to isolate, to go inward, to feel disempowered. And I can utilize the wisdom and knowledge from those past experiences to transform it more quickly, to call in others more quickly, to brainstorm, to take action more quickly. But I would say, in regards to the field, it all begins with the mind, because the mind is a powerful and wonderful thing, but it can also take us into moments of deep depths of darkness. So learning to utilize tools like the breath and meditation and different things in order to calm the mind, quiet the mind, because the mind itself can take us into the 2D, the 3D, so on and so forth. So I think drawing on past experiences would be a huge one. Taking action more quickly when there's an acknowledgement of, acknowledgement of disempowerment, brainstorming with others, calling on others. And the last thing would be, control of the, not control, but working with the mind to elevate the consciousness, to elevate the energetic field, rather than allowing it to create that story of downward spiral where it just, it compounds, right? It's like, I don't know if Kristen, you can relate to this, but I'm sure most people can. When you have what we put our energy on, we usually get more of. So when we're focusing on the negative, then all we see is the negative, and then another negative thought comes in, another thing, and then it's like compounding on itself. Hence, while this is happening, it's building this prison around us where we're just in this moment of creating these stories that may not even have any validity in our minds, but because we created them in our minds, they are now a part of our reality, whether it's happening in our physical realm or not, whether it's true in our physical realm or not. So that is where the power comes in, that we can control our thinking, but utilizing tools, especially the breath, to transform.
Let's just take a deep breath here now. Yeah, utilizing the tools to transform that we have. There is a deep internal strength within us to choose. Yeah, so there is choice. There's always choice. And that's empowering. Alone, that like no matter what the situation is, we do always have choice. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe we'll kind of end here, even though it's only like a ... It's not a hard period ever, because the next conversation will lead into, just more of this magical mystery tour of life. And I'm so grateful you were willing to share. And I just really honor you and love you so much, and all parts of you, just the pieces that are so, vulnerable, and those pieces that build the walls to protect the vulnerability. And it's all intelligent, yet we just know with choice, choosing that creates one reality. And when we choose this, so yeah, it's like just really, really respect you and your choice, and I really honor your path so much. And
Thank you.
yeah, just all of it, all of it.
Love and respect to you so much as well. And the last thing I want to say is it's all a journey of knowing thyself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the more self-awareness there is, the more we know the patterns, the triggers, all of this, the closer we become to the 5D, because we know how to transmute that energy when it comes up. But if we don't know ourselves, if we don't see ourselves, if there's no self-reflection, if there's no self-awareness, then accessing the 5D becomes more of a challenge, because we can get stuck in the lower dimensional thinking and the lower dimensional ways of being more easily. So it's a journey of knowing thyself.
Beautiful. Know thyself and be true. Isn't that?
I love you so much. Thank you for just asking me these questions and letting me share. It's quite healing just to share it in general. So thank you for the space to do so.
Such an honor. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you all next week for another episode of 5D Tea Time. So much love to you all. And subscribe. Write in the comment section what topics you want covered, what you liked about this video, anything you want to share. We will read all the comments. So thank you so much.
If you can relate to any of this, or you want to share any of your stories, please do. Please do.
Much love.